The 1990s were full of experimentation and global domination for U2. Up next, we highlight their albums in that glorious decade of change and their top 5 songs of the 90s on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure that you subscribe right now so you always get your daily dose of rock, pop, and soul, the history of it all with interviews, exclusives, all that. Also, check us out on Patreon. Now, a friend of mine shared an incident that happened very recently. It really troubled me. He recounted that he was teaching a martial arts class and he asked his 27-year-old instructor to put on some U2 music, on the streaming playlist that played over the dojo sound system. And the 27-year-old instructor was completely confused. He had no idea who or what a U2 was. My friend was utterly baffled that the younger instructor didn't recognize the band name U2. I mean, it seems unfathomable to me and probably to you as well, but there are younger generations that don't know the history or the music of one of the longest running bands of the rock era, one of the best, and one of the top grossing tour bands of all time, Perhaps someone who's not familiar with U2 will watch this and other U2 tribute pieces and delve into their rich catalog of incredible music. U2 has managed to stay together, you think about it, together as a core foursome with Bono, Clayton, Mullen Jr., and The Edge, since their formation in '76, with the exception of the very early departures of Dirk Evans and Ivan McCormick. Not many bands can say that. In the 80s, U2 captivated audiences around the world with their riveting raw intensity and their highbrow passion for social consciousness. Each of their 6 studio albums of the 80s were just brilliant recordings that haven't lost any of their gravity or their luster. From the debut LP Boy in '80 to perhaps their opus, Joshua Tree in '87, one of the biggest selling albums of all time, sold over 25 million copies. My favorite album is The Unforgettable Fire, but that's a story for another day, and we'll definitely cover it. U2 ended the 80s with Rattle and Hum, a hybrid album of live and studio recordings. The record served as a commemorative of their greatest hits to '88, and, remakes of legendary songs that were personally significant to each band member. Of course, the Rattle and Hum LP was also a companion piece to the U2 rockumentary of the same name. For U2, the 90s was a decade of experimentation and reinvention. Some fans fought it, including me, but I've grown to really appreciate their output of the 90s, which is what this video is about. The band pushed themselves and their fans artistically, taking some calculated risks throughout the entire decade. The Irish quartet absorbed themselves into the electronic dance culture and the avant-garde, collaborating with video artists and animators for their tours, Zoo TV, and Pop Mart. What drove U2 through most of the 90s was the quest for inspiration, and they found it in pretty unusual places. The first of which was Berlin, just after the reunification of Germany, where the group began working on their first album release of the 90s, Achtung Baby, in '91. U2 got caught up in the rapture of a new era of Europe and felt the need to transform their music to manifest the spirit of unity. Early sessions for Achtung Baby were fraught with tension because of a rare division in the band. Clayton and Mullen wanted more of the same U2 sound that their fans were accustomed to, while Bono and The Edge were fascinated by the industrial music scene in Europe, especially in Berlin. Bono envisioned a musical departure from the 80s. He described the metamorphosis as 4 men chopping down the Joshua Tree. It's a great quote. Bono's desire to distance himself and the band from the morality of the Joshua Tree era was most demonstrative with the invention of his devilish alter ego, Mephisto, which was Bono playing the part of an aging glam rocker clad in a solid gold suit with white facial makeup and horns. By the turn of the century, U2 went back to creating band arrangements and going back to their core roots. The philosophical differences actually led to a brief parting of the band at that time to clear their heads and refocus. The foursome returned to Dublin a few months later with renewed vigor and improved morale to create another outstanding collection of songs for Achtung Baby. We're going to explore Achtung Baby in real depth in a future segment, U2's next album, Zooropa, was an even bigger departure, with the Edge even taking lead on the first single, Numb. The supporting concert tour was a stark contrast from the band's previous staging. The tour, of course, titled Zoo TV, and it was a multimedia spectacle designed to satirize the pervasive nature of television. Gone were the earnest U2 performances of the 80s. The Zoo TV tour was intentionally filled with irony and self-deprecation. The tour also featured the emergence of what I said before, Bono's Mephisto during the set of each concert, with the character poetically ranting about politics and social mores. From there, U2 took a sabbatical, re-emerging in 95 with a track on the Batman Forever soundtrack, 95. Then in 97, they released the album Pop, with the lead single Discotheque, a heavy dance track with a music video featuring the band members, wearing disco costumes, reminiscent of the Village People. Soon after the release of Pop, the band announced another concept tour that they titled Pop Mart, with a press conference conducted in the lingerie section of a Kmart store, which of course was brilliant. The highlight of the Pop Mart tour was U2's historic concert at Kosovo Stadium in Sarajevo, Bosnia. That was in 97, playing for more than 45,000 people. U2 was the first major act to hold a concert in the city after the end of the Bosnian War. By the end of the century, after nearly a decade of challenging the status quo, U2 found a new appreciation for the ethos that shaped the brilliance of their earlier work. The Edge looked back on the band in the 90s and summed it up like this, to quote, "The group had taken the deconstruction of the rock and roll band format to its absolute nth degree," end of quote. For their first album of the new century, U2 returned to an unadorned recording style, getting all four band members in the same room to play together, reuniting with producers Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno to create the album All That You Can't Leave Behind, and we'll cover that era very soon. Having said that, here is my U2 90s Fiver, top 5 recorded performances of the 90s. Now, first an honorable mention, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, a song U2 composed for the movie Batman Forever, featuring fuzzy guitar riffs by The Edge, and a heavily reverberated Bono lead vocal. U2 dug into their outtakes from the Zooropa recording sessions, and they put this song together for the film. I like the energy of the song. It was a lot better than the movie that it came from, and it was great walking out to such a disappointing movie to such a great song. Number 5, Stay Faraway, So Close. The third single from Zooropa in 93. It was also nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Original Song for the Wim Wenders film Far Away So Close. Bono and The Edge call Stay Faraway So Close their favorite song on Zooropa. Now, the track was inspired by the music of Frank Sinatra, one of my favorites ever, hence the working title Sinatra, in reference to the provenance of the band's inspiration for the song, putting down his guitar in favor of a piano. The Edge was playing around with some old school chord progressions, trying to channel the spirit of the great one, Sinatra. Stay Far Away So Close is, it's more Tin Pan Alley than it is rock and roll. That's what gives the song a romantic charm with an intimate combo sound. U2 actually recorded 2 versions of the song, the one found on Zooropa and the second version for this Far Away So Close movie soundtrack. That it's almost 2 minutes longer with heavier guitar and heavier percussion. The single rose to number 1 in U2's homeland of Ireland, number 4 in the UK, number 3 in Italy and Iceland. It was a top 15 track on the mainstream rock and alternative rock chart. However, it missed the top 40 in America, stalling at number 61. Very disappointing. I don't get that. I always loved the dynamic of Bono's vocal on this one. It's very intimate and intensely methodical. The duet between Frank Sinatra and Bono, I've Got You Under My Skin, was actually the B-side to this. and Bono would give Sinatra a great tribute when presenting him with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Grammys soon after. Number 4, Blue-Eyed Boy Meets a Brown-Eyed Girl, The Sweetest Thing, originally the B-side to Where the Streets Have No Name. Sweetest Thing was later re-recorded and re-released as a single from U2's Best of 1980 to 1990 compilation in 98 that came out. Sweetest Thing was one of the songs that the band was considering for the Joshua Tree. Many of you know this. Didn't make the final cut because the band collectively felt that it didn't fit the theme of the record, which they were right. Despite being snubbed for the album, though, the song had a personal objective that came to the forefront in 1998. So Bono wrote Sweetest Thing as an apology to his wife, Allie. He was working in the studio on her birthday when he was recording the Joshua Tree. The treatment for the music video for The Sweetest Thing is centered around Bono in a horse carriage ride. He's looking a lot like Elvis Costello to me. He's trying to woo Allie, who actually appears in the clip sitting across from Bono in the carriage. Allie certainly accepted the apology, and it turned into a gift for her that she was able to help her favorite charity with proceeds of the single going to the Chernobyl Children International. Although Sweetest Thing was a top 10 track at alternative and adult alternative, it is another UT single during the late 90s that didn't fare well in the Billboard Hot 100. Peaked at only number 63, but it was a huge international hit, reaching number 3 in the UK and top 10 throughout most of Europe. The song topped the singles chart in Iceland and Poland and Canada and Ireland. And that's disappointing. You know, American listeners need to get with it in the 90s. Number 3, The Fly, a series of aphorisms Bono put to music as the first single from Achtung Baby in 91. Aphorisms used as lyrics such as, they say the sun is sometimes eclipsed by the moon. It's no secret that a liar won't believe anyone else. And it's no secret ambition bites the nails of success. The Fly is a really interesting departure for U2. Its dark industrial texture, its hip-hop overtones, it really set the tone for U2's exploration into the electronic dance world of the 90s. The Edge's guitar is eerily penetrating, and Bono's vocals are ominous and distorted. Despite the serpentining production, you can distinguish the consummate style of both U2 superstars. Bono once said that The Fly is a phone call from someone who is in hell and actually enjoys being there, and tells the person on the other end of the call about what he has learned while he has been in perdition. The Fly was a #1 smash in Ireland, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Portugal, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. It was a #1 track in the alternative rock chart and a #2 at mainstream rock, but once again, didn't translate with the pop audience in the US. It only reached number 61 on the Billboard Hot 100. Everybody was too into Criss Cross at that time, apparently. This was the first song I heard before Achtung Baby came out, and I bought the CD maxi single, and at the time I was, of course, enthralled with classic U2, you know, the past of Unforgettable Fire, and the Joshua Tree. I was an 80s kid who was being forced, kicking and screaming into the 90s era of grunge and electronica, hip-hop, and I wasn't ready for it. I look back on it now with a different set of ears, and I think The Fly was a welcome change into a new era for U2. Number 2, She Moves in Mysterious Ways, the second single from Achtung Baby in 91. Mysterious Ways evolved from an Adam Clayton bass line that the band loved, but the group struggled with the improvisational evolution of the track. It was originally titled Sick Puppy. Bono remembered that in the developmental stages of the tune, it was a bass line in search of a song. Mysterious Ways could have easily been discarded before it ever took shape as a potential song. Bono and producer Daniel Lanois actually got into a heated argument over the direction of the song during one of the songwriting sessions. Lanois and Bono debated over the song's lyrics for 2 hours, nearly coming to blows. Can you even imagine? When the two hugged it out and made up, Bono cited that altercation as a prime example of why he loves working with Lanois. To quote, he says, he truly cares about the record he's making as much or more than the artist or the band he's working with, end of quote.
It's alright, it's alright, it's alright.
U2 fans have also had a debate of their own regarding the meaning of Mysterious Ways. Some believe that the song is very spiritual, with references to John the Baptist, while others philosophize about the sexual nature of the song. From the outset, though, shaping Mysterious Ways seemed to be more trouble than it was worth. The session was going nowhere until the Edge began experimenting with a Korg A3 effects unit, and he came up with a really cool groove to complement Clayton's infectious bass line. The Edge discovered a specific A3 patch called Funk Wah. That was the formative moment for the song's progression. The patch discovery allowed a stabbing synth-like effect to be applied to the Edge's Jedi mind trick guitar parts. Best way to say it. Mysterious Ways is also a stellar example of why U2 love working with Brian Eno. It was Eno's artistic influence that truly brought the most creative impulses out of the Edge and, of course, his bandmates. Rewinding to the beginning of this piece when I lamented over a generation of music fans that are just clueless about U2, Mysterious Ways easily blends into a playlist of computer program music that is prevalent in modern recording, and it would probably be the ideal introduction for a younger set that isn't familiar with U2, maybe the first song they should hear. I don't know. The track was way ahead of its time, though, from a technical standpoint. You think about it. Unlike the synthetic nature of today's music, Mysterious Ways showcases the authentic emotive power of Bono's vocals, the Edge's haunting guitar riffs, and the overall artistic resonance of U2 that one rarely, if ever, finds in contemporary style music. Mysterious Ways shot to the top in Ireland and Portugal, and it was #1 on alternative mainstream rock tracks in America. It actually broke the top 10 on the pop charts, peaking at #9 on the Billboard Hot 100, which of course was a welcome development after the first single off of Achtung Baby stiffed on the pop charts. Before we go into our #1 spot, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. This is a brand that you've got to check out. The glasses that I'm wearing, they have blue light protection. Now, whether you wear prescription glasses or not, we should all be protecting our eyesight from the damaging digital blue light, and Zenni blocks lenses do that at a fraction of the cost of the competition. You gotta check it out below, you're gonna love it. #1, from 1992, a leader in a long line of thought-provoking U2 classics. 1. Let's go back to Berlin, where U2 was setting the table for the Achtung Baby sessions, and frustration on the direction of the group caused an uncharacteristic rift in the band.
Will it make it easier on you now?
The band separated for individual contemplation, and when they came back together back home in Dublin, their brotherhood was reunited from the healing experience of working together on the track One. It's no wonder that the song brought the four mates back together, because truly it's one of the most inspirational, empowering tracks ever, not just in the discography of U2, but for the rock era.
Not the same, we get to carry each other.
In his description of One, Bono has said, and I quote, "It is a song about coming together, but it's not the old hippie idea of let's all live together. It is, in fact, the opposite. It's saying we are one, but we're not the same. It's not saying we even want to get along, but that we have to get along together in this world if it is to survive. It's a reminder that we have no choice," end of quote. One is a moving parable that is more poignant today than it was when it dropped in the early 90s. One love, one blood, one life.
One love, one blood.
One was the third single from the Achtung Baby album. It was released as a benefit single with proceeds going towards AIDS research. One was another chartbuster in Ireland, went all the way on the singles survey in Canada, and number 7 in the UK. In the US, the track poetically ranked number 1 in the alternative and mainstream rock chart, which is the charts that you could trust at that time. It also ascended to number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Should have been a number 1 hit. But here's something for you. The week it hit number 10 on the charts, Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen was on the chart again, re-released, of course, from Wayne's World.
I see a little silhouette of a man.
It was at number 3. Criss Cross was at number 1 with their forgettable song, Jump. Can anyone in this world keep a straight face while thinking about that or comparing these songs? The beginning of the end. Anyway, I gotta be positive. One is an incredibly deep song that deserves a thorough breakdown, and we will cover it more in depth in the future for sure. U2 made its way through the 90s field of grunge and hip-hop, alternative electronica, and teeny pop, and they came out the other side with their musical ideals and their artistry still intact. And after over 2 decades of output at that point, they would go into the new millennium with something left to prove, or as Bono would famously say at the Grammy Awards in '94.
I think I'd like to give a message to the young people of America. And that is, we shall continue to abuse our position and fuck up the mainstream. God bless you.
Leave us a comment about U2 and your fiver from the 90s. To hear these songs, click on the playlist below. To get Achtung Baby or this shirt, click on our Amazon links below. If you like our content, just click on the subscribe button. To get more content, to support our mission, become a patron at the link below. Help us keep this music alive. It's really important. Until next time. 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there and rock steady.